1973. The latest appeal followed an intervention by a group of public-spirited individuals who jointly sponsored air tickets of the 83 Nigerians returning from South Africa. Now, one of those contributors to the sponsorship of the air tickets returnees is the former president of the Nigerian support for efforts at getting Nigerians stranded in South Africa back home. Well, he'll be joining us on the program to talk more about this and the fresh deadline by the South African vigilantes for undocumented migrants to leave the country. All right, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke's re-election in the August 15, 2026 state government election under the Accord Party may be a concluded issue, but his victory has significantly altered the political landscape as Nigeria begins positioning for the 2027 general elections. Governor Adeleke visited President Bola Tinubu at the Aso Rock Villa, sparking heavy debate over his public declaration for the president's 2027 re-election bid. His visit comes a day after a convoy of the governor was attacked in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. The Osun State Police Command has confirmed that members of the AF confraternity launched the assault, specifically targeting Governor Adeleke's nephew, Afrobeat singer David O. The attack triggered a fierce 15-minute shootout with security personnel. It occurred at the palace of the Atauja of Osogbo, Oba Jimo Oyetunji. The governor and his family had visited the traditional ruler to celebrate his newly received INEC certificate of return. Adeleke's alignment with President Tinubu has drawn intense backlash from opposition civil groups. Okay, away from Osun State now, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, representing the African Democratic Congress, has declared that 2027 will be his final presidential run, while vowing to immediately restore fuel subsidy if elected. Now, Atiku's latest position on fuel subsidy is a complete departure from his previous position, leaving him open to criticism by his political opponents. But there are those who say there's nothing wrong with Atiku's latest position, which they say may have been born out of a change in circumstances. They also say that President Tinubu might do well to borrow a leaf from Atiku and consider restoring the removed fuel subsidy. Well, we'll be looking at these and other political developments when we're joined by Kenneth Eze, Executive Lead at Speak Out Africa Initiative. He'll be joining us later to examine latest political developments. And do remember that you can be part of the program by sending your views and comments to all our social media handles on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube at Africa Independent TV, so that you can stay up to date with the latest news from around the globe. Well, the latest news from around the globe is what we're going to be bringing you as we join the Kakaaki News Desk. Thanks for joining us on the World News on Kakaaki, the African Voice. And we begin in the United Kingdom, where the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's surprise announcement that they will return to the UK this month has reignited questions over the level of their publicly funded in Britain. Prince Harry and Meghan plan to relocate from the US to a private non-royal residence outside London, with their children, Prince Archie, age 7, and Princess Lilibet, age 5, enrolled to start school in September. Their UK security was downgraded after they stopped being working royals in 2020 and moved to the US, where they have paid for their own protection. The Royal and VIP Executive Committee, an independent body overseen by the Home Office, will now have to make a decision, as previous arrangements were based on the Sussexes not living in the UK permanently. The committee had concluded that because Prince Harry was going to be an infrequent visitor to the UK, his security needs would be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Security for the couple has long been a point of tension, with Prince Harry losing a legal challenge last year over how much he and his family were entitled to when visiting the UK. The Sussexes left the UK and stepped back from their royal duties in early 2020 before they settled in California, where they have employed a private security team to protect them. The FBI stopped former US Congressman Eric Swalwell in an airport and seized his electronic devices, while also raiding his home in Washington, D.C., as part of a federal investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against him. After the allegations surfaced earlier this year, Swalwell dropped out of the California governor's race, where he was in the lead, and gave up his seat in the House of Representatives. He is also under criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for accusations of rape and sexual assault. Swalwell has in the past denied the allegations, and his attorney has called them fabricated. Newsmen have reached out to him for comment, where he has continually denied them. A Chinese court has sentenced the founder of collapsed property giant Evergrande to life imprisonment for financial crimes, including large-scale fraud. The company and its real estate arm were also fined a combined $2.4 billion 5 years after Evergrande's historic debt default shocked China's property sector.
Once one of China's richest men, Zhu Jinying, now faces life behind bars. A court in Zhejiang fined the 67-year-old Evergrande founder guilty of offenses including large-scale financial fraud, embezzlement, and bribery. The court says Evergrande and Zhu inflated assets and concealed liabilities between 2016 and 2021. It also found that financial institutions were brought under their control through bribery. Zhu, also known as Hu Kaiyan, had pleaded guilty in April. The court ordered the confiscation of all his personal property and stripped him of political rights for life. Evergrande and its real estate subsidiary were also fined a combined 15.82 billion yuan, about $2.4 billion. 5 other senior executives received prison sentences ranging from 6 to 18 years. Chinese state media says 56 people, including Zhu's 2 sons, were handed prison terms in connection with the case. Evergrande was once a symbol of China's extraordinary property boom, expanding rapidly on borrowed money as millions of Chinese invested in new homes. But government restrictions on excess borrowing exposed the scale of its debts, and the company defaulted in 2021. Its collapse became one of the biggest symbols of China's prolonged property crisis. And with home prices still under pressure, the Evergrande case remains closely watched for what it reveals about the health of the world's second largest economy.
The United States national debt has crossed $40 trillion for the first time, more than doubling in a decade. The milestone comes earlier than projected, raising concerns that mounting government borrowing and the growing cost of servicing the debt Treasury figures show that the debt reached $40.05 trillion on August the 18th, compared with just under $20 trillion in 2016. Long-term borrowing costs have also risen sharply, with yields on 30-year U.S. government bonds reaching their highest level in almost 2 decades. The Congressional Budget Office projects the national debt could climb to about $64 trillion by 2036, increasing pressure on Washington to contain deficits and interest costs. Canada and the United States say they are close to finalizing a new trade agreement that could ease months of tariff tensions between the two neighbors. President Donald Trump says the emerging deal will benefit American farmers and manufacturers, while Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says it will provide greater certainty and protect Canada's key industries. Negotiators have held 3 consecutive days of talks after Trump threatened new tariffs on Canadian goods were paused. Details are still being finalized, but the United States is considering cutting tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium from 50% to 25%, while tariffs on Canadian-made vehicles could fall from 25% to 15%. Canada is also facing U.S. demands over agricultural market access and the return of American alcohol to Canadian stores. Both sides say progress is being made, but officials caution that negotiations are not yet complete. A final agreement could be announced within days. At least 13 people have been killed and 40 others injured in overnight Russian strikes on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Ukrainian authorities say apartment buildings and warehouses were hit, while a children's hospital and a school were also damaged. Emergency crews are searching through the rubble as residents assess the destruction to their homes. Ukraine's Air Force indicated that none of the ballistic missiles launched at the capital overnight were intercepted. President Volodymyr Zelensky has blamed the scale of the casualties on a shortage of air defense missiles and renewed calls for more support from Western allies. Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko says Ukraine urgently needs ammunition and anti-missile systems. Ukraine relies heavily on American-supplied Patriot interceptors to counter Russian ballistic missiles, but supplies have become increasingly constrained. Russia's defense ministry says its strikes targeted military facilities and warehouses using air, land, and sea-based weapons. And we stay in Ukraine as the country continues to face a shortage of air defense missiles. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said at least 17 people have been killed in the latest Russian strikes targeting the Ukrainian capital. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the deaths were as a result of shortage of air defense missiles, which Kiev relies on Western allies for supply. Speaking to newsmen at a wrecked apartment block in Kiev, Mayor Klitschko said Ukraine needed ammunition, anti-missile systems, and support from partners. Klitschko was in Solomyansky district to assess the damage around him. Emergency workers continued to sift through rubble, and people stood outside their destroyed homes. Now to the Middle East, where a Palestinian American has raised the United States flag over his home in the occupied West Bank, hoping it will draw attention to his family's ordeal. Luai Abu-Ridi returned from the United States after Israeli settlers surrounded Palestinian homes in Kusra near Nablus, restricting access to food and other supplies.
The American flag now flies above this Palestinian home in Kusra. For Luai Abu-Ridi, it is both a symbol of his citizenship and a message to Washington. He returned from the United States after learning that Israeli settlers had surrounded homes belonging to Palestinian families, including his own. For more than a week, residents say access to food and other essential supplies was restricted. Abu-Ridi says he wants Americans to see what is happening to his family and has asked the U.S. Embassy to continue raising his case. Israeli forces have since moved against settler positions in the area, dismantling makeshift structures and detaining at least one Israeli. But residents say settlers have repeatedly returned. The confrontation has prompted unusually strong criticism from Washington. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, a long-standing supporter of Israeli settlements, condemned the siege and said he had asked Israeli authorities to intervene. Huckabee says Palestinian families have the right to live in their homes without fear and has called for serious consequences for those responsible for violence and intimidation. Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank are considered illegal under international law, a position Israel disputes. For Aburidi, the flag above his home is now an appeal for protection as his family waits to see whether international pressure will bring an end to the standoff.
Taiwan is proposing record defense spending for 2027 as it strengthens its military in the face of growing pressure from China. The proposed budget will exceed 1 trillion Taiwanese dollars for the first time, with increased investment in drones, missiles, and other military capabilities.
Taiwan is preparing to spend more on its defense than ever before. President Lai Ching-te says total defense spending for 2027 will reach about 1.12 trillion Taiwan dollars, accounting for more than 3% of the island's economy. The government says the increase demonstrates its determination to strengthen Taiwan's ability to defend itself. The proposed budget represents an increase of about 18%, with investment expected in drones, missiles, and other programs to modernize Taiwan's military. Taipei has increasingly turned to smaller, more mobile weapons as part of an asymmetric defense strategy designed to counter China's much larger military. Beijing considers Taiwan part of its territory and has intensified military and political pressure around the island. Taiwan rejects China's sovereignty claims. The United States has also been pressuring Taipei to spend more on its own defense, while concerns persist over Washington's long-term security commitment to the Asia-Pacific. Lai's government has pledged to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2030. But delivering the spending program could prove politically difficult. Opposition parties control Taiwan's parliament and have previously reduced some of the additional defense funding sought by the government. The 2027 proposal will now head to parliament, placing Taiwan's defense priorities once again at the center of the domestic political battle against the backdrop of continuing pressure from Beijing.
100 people have been killed after a landslide struck a gold mining area in the Central African Republic close to the border with Cameroon. Local officials say at least 107 bodies have been recovered from the rubble at Zamboi, with fears the death toll could rise as rescue operations continue. Videos from the scene appear to show a slope collapsing onto people at the mining site as others run for safety. The cause is under investigation, although prosecutors say the collapse of underground tunnels where the miners were working may have triggered the disaster. Some survivors have been taken to hospital in Babua, about 50 kilometers from the mining area. At least 3 of those killed are reported to be Cameroonian. Artisanal gold mining provides livelihoods for many people in the region, but poorly secured pits and tunnels combined with heavy rainfall frequently expose miners to deadly collapses and landslides. And Zambian police have confirmed that former cabinet minister Mutotwe Kafwaya was shot dead during a security operation at a property linked to opposition leader Brian Mudubile. Police say the 49-year-old was fatally wounded after security forces encountered gunfire during the raid in Lusaka, a day after the country's presidential election. 11 people were arrested, with authorities accusing members of Mundubile's opposition party of involvement in militia activity and an alleged plot against state security. Mundubile, who has since gone into hiding, rejects the allegation as fabrications and says the operation took place at his home. The confirmation of Kafwaya's death follows days of demands from the opposition for information about his whereabouts. The raid comes amidst tensions following President Hakainde Hichilema's re-election with about 60% of the vote. Mundubile, who secured 38%, has rejected the result and says he will challenge it in court. International observers described Election Day as largely peaceful, but raised concerns about restrictions on the opposition and an uneven political playing field. Opposition parties, ethnic youth leaders of Nigeria have passed a unanimous vote of confidence on Professor Bola Tinubu and President Bola Tinubu and Professor Joash Amukpiton-led INEC and heads of Nigeria's security agencies for their roles and efforts in ensuring free and credible elections in Osun State, describing the recently concluded governorship election as a victory for democracy and credible elections. Speaking on behalf of the group in the media conference, the national chairman of the Action People's Party, Uchenna Nadi, said the significance of the Osun poll went beyond the victory or defeat of individual parties or candidates. He singled out the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and its chairman, and President Bola Tinubu, and securities and heads of agencies in Osun State for what he described as their contributions to peaceful and a credible election process. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has commended President Bola Tinubu for what he described as the Nigerian leader's commitment to democracy following the conduct of free and fair elections in the state. Adeleke spoke shortly after meeting with President Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja on Thursday. According to Governor Adeleke, the outcome of the August 15 governorship election in Osun State demonstrated the importance of ensuring a credible electoral process. Adeleke added that his visit was also aimed at appreciating Tinubu's role in ensuring that democracy continues to flourish in Nigeria. The governor secured 511,067 votes in the election to defeat the All Progressive Congress's candidate Bola Oyebamiji, who polled 414,815 votes.
Yes, that is why I'm here, to thank Mr. President, the father of the nation, because he fought for this democracy. That is why he allowed free and fair election, and that is the result. That is why I'm here, to say thank you for making sure that democracy lives in Nigeria. Okay? Thank you very much.
All right, still talking about the Osun State governorship election, which has been concluded, but the issue of strengthening citizenship participation and democratic accountability still remains a talking point. A civil society group which was involved in the exercise, the Kimpact Development Initiative, on Thursday in Abuja, gave this post-election observation report. Correspondent Enemaku Ojochegbe has more.
Beyond the re-election of Ademola Adeleke as governor and moves by the main opponent, Biodu Oyebanji, that he may mount a legal challenge, Kimpact Initiative says the Osun State governorship election exposed weaknesses that should not be overlooked simply because election day events looked peaceful.
And we also found 11 polling units with registered voter mismatches. These findings are particularly relevant in the context of the enhanced electronic result validation process.
I think on the issue of elections technology, I think it is still a work in progress, requiring...
Kimpact advanced evidence-based innovation, research and policy engagement are some of the only credible ways to strengthen citizen participation and democratic accountability in Nigeria.
It was so difficult to say there is widespread of voter inducement, because we highlighted here that at provision shops, things are happening there. But if you have to stick to what constitutes electoral offences by the Electoral Act, it has to be within the precinct of the polling unit.
Given the importance of the electronic upload of polling unit results to IREF for public scrutiny, timely communication during such a pause is important.
The general elections are in January and February next year, just months away. And Kim Park says strategies to democratic accountability in Nigeria must be intensified. Nemaku Ojochegbe, AIT News, Abuja.
Now, the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Atiku Abubakar, says his plans for the petroleum industry will see a targeted, transparently budgeted, and independently audited production subsidy regime. Atiku, in a statement issued by his media aide, Frank Shaibu, the former vice president, said his plan, tagged the Atiku Economic Recovery Plan 2027, recognizes that the choice before Nigeria is not simply between subsidy and no subsidy. Atiku criticized President Tinubu, saying you cannot abolish subsidy at Eagle Square and allow subsidy-like costs to resurface in government accounts without explaining the contradiction. The statement concludes, ours will be define the intervention, establish the ceiling, appropriate the money, track the crude, verify the production, guarantee the consumer benefit, publish the accounts, and progressively reduce the subsidy. Well, in response, the presidency has rejected former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's proposal to restore petrol subsidy, warning that such a move could undermine ongoing reforms in Nigeria's petroleum sector and place fresh pressure on public finances. In a statement on Thursday, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, said the proposed return to subsidy failed to reflect the significant changes that have taken place in the petroleum industry since the policy was removed in 2023. Ononuga said while Atiku has the constitutional right to propose alternative policies, Nigerians deserve to know how the proposed subsidy would be funded and whether it is compatible with its existing laws and current structure of the petroleum market. He explained that the former subsidy regime involved government absorbing the difference between the actual cost of supplying petrol and the regulated pump price, creating a significant financial burden on the country. Ononuga questioned what exactly would be subsidized under the proposed arrangement, given the increasing volume of petrol now being produced domestically. The president said the Tinubu administration was instead pursuing measures aimed at reducing energy costs without returning to what it described as fiscally burdensome and opaque subsidy system. And that's the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Up next, Kakaaki Business. Stay with us.
Kakaaki Business. The Swedish Central Bank, Riksbank, has left its policy rate unchanged at 1.75% as it continues to assess the outlook for inflation and economic growth. The bank says economic activities and inflation have both been stronger than expected in its June assessment. However, underlying inflation, excluding energy and temporal fiscal effects, remain close to the 2% level. The Riksbank says recent inflation readings have raised concerns that supply disruption linked to the conflict in the Middle East could create more persistent price pressure. It adds that subdued corporate pricing plans and easing global supply chain disruption suggest inflationary pressures have not yet become entrenched. The bank therefore considers its currency policy stance appropriate. Hong Kong's seasonal adjusted unemployment rate has remained unchanged at 3.7% in the 3 months to July, keeping it at its lowest level since the period ending August 2025. Despite the stable headline rate, the number of unemployed people increased by 6,000 to 145,700, while total employment rose by 1,503.648 million. Youth unemployment also increased with the rate for people aged 20 to 29 rising to 8.4% from 7.5%. The underemployment rate edged up to 1.7%. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's labor force participation rate increased marginally to 56.3% from 56.2%, indicating a slight improvement in labor market participation. In Nigeria, the Nigeria Economic Summit Group (NESG) is projecting that Nigeria's inflation rate will remain elevated in the second half of 2026, averaging 15.5% for the period and the full year. The group attributed the expected pressure to persistent insecurity in farming communities, climate-related disruptions, including flooding, and high transportation costs arising from logistic challenges. The NESG also expects election-related spending, seasonal demand during the festive period, and relatively high energy costs to create temporary cost push pressure on the consumer price during the second half of the year. Nigeria's energy inflation rate fell sharply to 4.37% in July 2026, its lowest level in 4 months, according to the latest consumer price index data from the National Bureau of Statistics. The figure represents a 5.46 percentage point decline from the 9.83% recorded in June, continuing the significant volatility in energy-related price pressure during the year. Energy inflation had risen from 11.2% in January to 12.57% in February, before declining to 9.89% in March and 4.5% in April. The rate subsequently increased to 5.73% in May and 9.83% in June, before falling sharply in July. The latest figure is marginally below the 4.5% recorded in April. Despite the moderation, energy costs remain an important factor influencing inflation expectations among households and businesses. Women and children in Nigeria's oil-producing communities bear much of the impact of extractive activities, yet women often have little say in decision and community development funds. This was a concern raised by CISLAC at the stakeholders' engagement on women's rights in the extractive sector, focusing on the Petroleum Industry Act and the Host Community Development Trust (HCDT).
Extractive sector, women bear a disappropriate burden of the negative impact from the loss of livelihood to health risks and to exclusion of women in decision making, and even their voices' contributions remain largely invisible.
2 studies supported by Oxfam under the EOLET project were presented, with participants from government, regulators, oil companies, civil society, and host communities urged to turn the findings into action.
The position of women within the extractive industry is paramount because women play a huge role in our production area. And the extractive sectors, when we talk about the Host Community Development Trust, a lot has been going on, and women are not given a space to be in the decision room where they can represent their own peers and also to present their needs.
Key recommendation includes transparent HCDT spending, gender-responsive budgeting, and stronger grievance mechanisms. The federal government has charged the Nigerian Institute of Building, NIOB, to make professionalism non-negotiable in the delivery of safe, affordable, and sustainable housing across the country. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akome, gave the charge at the Gathering of Builders, stressing that Nigeria's growing population and housing needs leave no room for poor supervision, substandard materials, or the use of unqualified personnel in the building industry.
Pursuing the development of building materials manufacturing hubs across the geopolitical zones, precisely to support local production and reduce construction costs. And your role is to bring the technical knowledge, research capacity, and industry networks to the table by contribution to policies and programs, from conceptualization to delivery.
The most recurring challenge is the building collapse, the recurring building collapse, which we believe builders have a lot to do in terms of quality control and then monitoring standards for implementation.
With building collapse continuing to raise concerns over safety and professionalism in Nigeria's construction sector, NIOB President Abimbola Kolade says strict adherence to professional standards remain critical to reducing avoidable disasters.
Saying that, yes, in this advocacy, that for us to ensure that quality works are done, the right materials are being used on site, and the need for us to have a proper construction methodology in carrying out our building construction in Nigeria. This is why we believe that a good policy influence we assist the growth, and sustainability within the housing industry in Nigeria.
What are we doing? How are we going to position the building profession in a way that we are going to advance advocacy in terms of doing things the way it's supposed to be done in the built environment? If you can look around all over the cities in Nigeria, there are estate buildings coming up here and there. Who are the people handling them? What are the government policies that are enabling them to practice, to do what they are going to do? Do they have the right professional? Do they have the right professionals, the builders, the architects?
The NIOB says sustained advocacy and stronger collaboration with government and private developers are essential to tackling quackery and improving construction standards. The institute is also calling for greater public awareness, stressing that safe and durable building begin with professional oversight from design to completion. And lastly, women farmers in Buhari Area Council, Federal Capital Territory are breathing sighs of relief as Bank of Agriculture commences distribution of fertilizers and other inputs to support their farming activities. The women were seen dancing and rejoicing over what they describe as farming relief, optimistic that the gesture will improve food production.
For millions of Nigerian women, agriculture is more than a livelihood. It is central to the work that keeps food moving from farms to households and markets. Yet, the women who do this work continue to face significant barriers to the finance, input, and productive resources they need to grow. This input support reflects a broader government's commitment to improving food production and strengthening women farmers.
Jesus, thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
Beneficiaries were overjoyed by the gesture.
We are farmers from Buhari Area Council. We dey do this farm for years. We know they see anything because we dey find help. But today, God has sent destiny helpers to come and help us.
Speaking in a statement, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Bank of Agriculture, Ayodeji Sontiri, said expanding agriculture financing must go hand in hand with understanding what farmers need to remain productive. For the bank, the objective of the intervention is to ensure food security and poverty reduction. As Nigeria works to increase domestic food production, strengthening food security and build more resilient agriculture value chains, closing the gap between farmers' productive potential and their access to resources remain critical. The Bank of Agriculture pledges to deepen its partnership, financing mechanisms, and value chain interventions to bring more farmers, particularly underdeserved smallholder producers, into the formal agriculture economy, creating stronger pathways from finance to production and from production to markets.
We are happy.
Yes. Thank you. Ngozi Onyeja, AIT News, Abuja.
All right, that was Business Reports, keeping you up to speed with the latest and relevant stuff happening in the world of business in Nigeria and across the globe. All right, time to introduce my tag team partner once again, who's joining me. It's been a wet night. I don't know if it was raining where you were, but definitely it rained all night in our part of town.
Cats and dogs and then diamonds and blouses. So it was really pouring showers. But I think it's the season. But I think the dilemma is also the consequences that comes with it, especially the environment and the road networks.
Because that's what I was thinking about when the rain just didn't stop, because I was awake for most of the night, of course, to put this together. And I was just thinking about the floods of last weekend in Wuse too, and I was thinking, man, isn't this going to repeat itself all over again somewhere?
Well, I think maybe what should be done is the short-term intervention at the moment. I do know that the FCTA is looking houses or structures that are built over waterways. But that's, I mean, that doesn't stop the flood happening in other parts and other plains, playing all this, so that have blocked, waterways. So it should be extended. It should be extended to look at what can be done in the short term.
All right. Just to let you know that when we start talking on Kakaaki, the African Voice will be looking at comments credited to the Consul General of South Africa in Lagos, Bobby Moreau, who actually rejected the xenophobia tag that's been South Africa, and I think he's actually got a lot of people angry with that comment.
And then you're on the heels of that, you still see the deadlines for September still be muted by members of the March and March group. So, I mean, it's one thing for him to say, but in real time, what are we seeing? What's the practicality of that statement versus what the people of South Africa are also doing? So, I mean, it just makes common sense.
And of course, we'll also be having our political update today, looking at the fallouts from the Osun State governorship election, and of course, what former Vice President and presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar said about reintroducing subsidy. Now, he's really got a lot of people talking. That's all over the papers. Of course, it's going to dominate a lot of our discussions in the newspaper review, too.
It's campaign season. Everybody's going to make promises and mandates. And like we said, it's too much action with words and really show us the hows and not the what.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, now, if Nigeria must continue to maximize the gains recorded in recent times in the health sector, it must devise lucrative means to keep its young health workers and women from migrating to seek better pastures elsewhere. The call was made by the president of the West African Health Workers Union Network and president of the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria, Kabiru Ado, at the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria commemoration of the International Youth Week held here in Abuja.
Nigeria is experiencing a major brain drain of health workers, and the data shows young professionals are leading the exodus. Available data shows migration surge was 200% across all cadre between 2023 and 2024. This gathering of young medical and health workers has provided an opportunity for labor leaders to highlight the push factors of JAPA and prefer solutions. Kabiru Ado Minjibir is the president of the West African Health Workers Union Network and the president of the Medical and Health Workers Union of Nigeria.
And the issues are almost the same, because not even the skilled health workers presently, even the youth are migrating out of our respective countries to Europe for greener pasture. So we wanted to see how we can collaborate with government to stop that, because we know that in as much as our youth were not being mentored here in our country, then our health system across the region is in jeopardy.
For the Nigeria Labour Congress and youth leaders, mentoring is key in encouraging young health workers to believe more in their country's effort to better their working conditions and welfare.
For us in the trade union, the youth really need to be part of the decision-making process. The youth really need to be mainstream into the union structure. Like we believe, it's not just to talk about the youth, it's to make the youth part of the discussion, it's to make the youth part of the agenda setting.
To encourage the youth committee or youth sector or young workers so that they can participate well, remove the fear, and make a workplace a safe place.
As activities round up for the 2026 International Youth Day, these young medical and health workers seek more proactive policies to save the country's dwindling healthcare delivery services. Abulu Osemahu, ART News.
All right, the JAPA syndrome in the health sector revisited again during the celebration of International Youth Week. And apparently, it looks as if the situation is actually a lot more serious than it really seems. That they're moving in wholesale quantities abroad, young medical practitioners.
I think that, it's not... Not just every time railing out on the situation and what's happening, is what really is the authority doing about it, and what is the sector also looking at doing to stop more migrations of young professionals. In the past 5 years, over 57,000 nurses, young nurses, have left Nigeria for either the UK or Australia or United States, or just anywhere that you just could get a better working condition. And it's going to get worse by 30% by next year. Wow. So you look at that numbers of nurses alone, and then you talk about doctors, right? And for me, the question is, I mean, what are they doing? Because at the end of the day, these are skills. These are trained personnel that could have brought in that skill back into the system. Yeah. You look at the fact that we have, one doctor to about what? 30 or 40 or 50 patients in Nigeria, which absolutely sometimes are very lacking in public health systems. So I think, beyond the reportage, I think when governments see this kind of analysis, what do they do with the reports? How do they, investigate what can be done? How do they collaborate? Again, of course, we've seen that several doctors, launching for strike, at the moment. So, I mean, it just goes beyond the rhetoric of having these policy directions without implementation and reviewing the welfare packages of both, nurses, doctors, and even physiotherapists. Yeah, I think that's and lab scientists like Doc said the other day.
Yes, I mean, I think that's hitting the nail right on the head. I think it's all about welfare. And it's actually playing into the hands of places like the UK, whose NHS is in crisis, and they actually need people. So this is happening it's happening at the best time for people like them. So there's an easy place for our healthcare workers to run to at this particular point in time. And
also looking at the issues of not just the the environment, it's also the training that they get, the practicality that they get, and the opportunities that they get when they do finish those kind of trainings within Nigeria. So it's a lot of introspection to do. I hope that they've been doing enough and can do something about what they've thought about at the moment. So let's go from just narratives and analysis to really, really doing something about it.
And I think that's you saying that putting your money where your mouth is. I think that's what Dora's trying to say to the authorities. All right, you're still watching the Friday edition of Kakaaki, the African Voice. Time to bring you our social intervention segments.
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Dolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Alphas, so what are we doing today? We're doing some shuffles like we're playing volleyball. So we're going to shuffle to the left and jump, shuffle to the right, and pick up the ball. And your time starts now. Let's go. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Jump, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Pick it up. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Jump, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Pick. Keep going. Jump. Pick it. Stay low. I hope you have your water close, because you're going to need to hydrate after this one. Every workout requires you to hydrate, all right? Let's go. 30 seconds. Come on, we're halfway now. Hey. Ha. Hey. Go, 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 go. Ha. Hey. Yes. We're working. Getting fit in 60 seconds. Possible. You're doing it right now. 10 seconds. Come on. Ha. Keep breathing. In 3, 2, 1, and time. Super job. Well done. I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye.
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, I'll be speaking on leading under pressure. In April 1970, the world watched in disbelief as an explosion crippled Apollo 13, a spacecraft carrying 3 astronauts on their way to the moon. Within seconds, what had been a routine mission became a fight for survival. Oxygen was rapidly disappearing. Electrical systems were failing. The chances of bringing the crew home seemed painfully small. Back on Earth, inside NASA's mission control, all eyes turned to one man, Flight Director Gene Kranz. Panic would have been understandable. Fear would have been natural. But instead of allowing the crisis to control him, Kranz remained calm. He focused on facts, trusted his team, and refused to surrender to despair. He challenged everyone in the room to concentrate, think clearly, and work together against overwhelming odds. The astronauts returned home safely. That mission became one of history's greatest examples of leadership under pressure. The truth is that every leader will eventually face moments they do not expect: a business setback, a financial crisis, a family challenge, a difficult decision. Leadership is not measured by the absence of problem. Actually revealed how humans can respond to problems. And therefore, any leader that has the capacity to actually respond appropriately, not react, but become proactive to deal with the issues, that leader becomes exceptional. Anyone who can lead in times of challenges stands out. So how do you lead under pressure is my first critical question. Number 1, stay calm. Panic clouds judgment, but calmness creates clarity. It is called the calmness of a leader. So people naturally look to their leaders during difficult moments. Your attitude often then becomes their attitude. So that's why every leader, again, is a dealer in hope. Second, focus on facts, not fear. Fear exaggerates the problem, but facts help you make wise decisions. Third, trust your team. You see, when people are actually working with great teams that are well trained, they understand the dynamics of what is going on. It is important for you to trust on the wise decisions of your team. They have great capacities that can generate great results. They might not have all the answers, but working together, they can generate one. So they create an environment where everyone is working together to achieve the result necessary. Finally, never lose hope. Optimism is not pretending everything is fine. It is believing that with wisdom, perseverance, teamwork, there will be a way forward. And that way forward can be crafted right now. Life will not always give you calm waters. There will be seasons of uncertainty. There will be moments when the future seems unclear. But remember this: a crisis does not create a leader. It reveals the leader who has been there all along. Imagine the possibilities of each and every one of us going through these difficult times in this country and getting better, getting wiser, and making things happen in an environment. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man does not have a purpose of waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Look up, wear a smile. Here comes Lady Etty, etiquette queen. She's the one.
In a world where character, confidence, and social intelligence shape success, refinement becomes a powerful advantage. This is Etiquette with Etty, the inspirational pep talk series where renowned etiquette expert Lady Etty shares practical wisdom and transformational life lessons designed to help individuals navigate life with dignity, poise, and purpose. Welcome to Etiquette with Etty.
She's got grace, she's got style.
Not everyone will praise you. Not everyone will agree with you. And sometimes people will criticize you. The real question is, how do refined people handle criticism? Hello there. My name is Etienne Akpanusong. I'm also known as the Lady Eti, your preferred etiquette and personal refinement pedagogue. Today, we're learning how to handle criticism without losing your confidence. Criticism can feel uncomfortable, but sometimes it carries valuable insight. Refined individuals understand that criticism does not always define your worth. It can actually refine your growth. Here are 3 elegant ways to respond to criticism. Number 1, listen calmly. Resist the urge to interrupt or become defensive. Sometimes, simply listening shows maturity. Number 2, separate emotion from information. Ask yourself, is there something here that can help me improve? Growth often hides inside correction. Number 3, respond with grace. A simple response such as, thank you for sharing your perspective. I will reflect on it. This shows strength and not weakness. Remember, confidence is not the absence of criticism. True confidence is the ability to grow from it. Keep it elegant always. Thank you.
Today on Etiquette with Eti, Lady Eti reminds us that refinement is not just about how we appear, but about how we think, how we speak, and how we treat others. Because true elegance begins with character and is expressed through grace. To deepen your journey in etiquette, personal refinement, and social excellence, you are invited to join the programs and masterclasses at ETI Global Academy, where individuals are equipped with the skills and confidence to thrive in today's world. Follow Lady Eti at The Lady Eti and Etiquette Africa at Etiquette Africa across all social media platforms for more transformational life tips and upcoming events. This program is proudly brought to you by ETI Global Academy and Etiquette Africa.
All right, nice to know you're still there. It's the Friday edition of Kakaaki, the African Voice, the first hour, and you know how we do it around this time. Yes, taking a look at what our newspapers are saying on their front pages and lead headlines.
Indeed, and we do have, you know, our Friday tonic men, and they're just here in their delight. One is in white, one is in, I think this is burgundy, I think, bright red. And of course, Emmanuel Ezeking of the GWG.NG News. Thank you so much for coming this Friday morning.
Good morning, Friday tonic men, as you just
Good morning.
Our Men Friday. All right, let's begin with our first paper, and it's Daybreak. Daybreak is breaking this morning. Tinubu slams Atiku's pledge to restore subsidy as ignorance of governance, and that's what we see as lead story. Former VP says subsidy removal worsened hardship, pledges reversal if elected. Presidency insists policy was necessary to free funds for development, and that's on page 2 of the Daybreak newspaper.
Okay, let's move over to This Nigeria. Subsidy war. Tinubu hits back at Atiku with the riders, calls ex-VP ignorant over reversal plan. Wike brands him voodoo economist, desperate for power. APM faults FG's 15.8 trillion savings figure, demands full accounts.
Then you also want to see that story on the front page of the, I think that is Disclosure News. Yes, 2027, Atiku, federal government renew fight over fuel subsidy removal. I'll restore full subsidy, Atiku vows, says 2027 election will be his last attempt at presidency. So he says. This is highest level of desperation, out of touch with Nigeria's economic reality, says APC. Federal government explains gains of subsidy removal, and that's on page 2. But that picture story really gory and sad too. Tragic. 50 dead, 15 rescued as overloaded boat capsizes in Sokoto, and that's the story on page 2 on the picture story.
Okay, let's move to the authority. Petrol subsidy restoration. Atiku seriously ignorant, according to Tinubu. Atiku seriously ignorant, President Tinubu says. And there's a rider there where he tells Adeleke, you won Osun election fairly. There's a photograph there, I guess, during the Osun State Governor's visit to the president.
All right, let's also look at the Daily Global. But there's a story there on the front page of the authority bottom page that says State Police Presidential Working Group finalizes report for Tinubu today. But Daily Global still takes it on subsidy removal. Atiku is a hypocrite, renegade presidency, and that's what you find on the front page of the newspaper. Well, ongoing demolition of houses on waterways in Maitama to extend to other parts of Abuja, says FCT minister, and that's what you see front page.
News also leads with the Atiku subsidy talk. Show Nigerians how you will fund subsidy. FG to Atiku as Ononuga questions cost legality of proposed return to petrol subsidy. Show Nigerians how you will fund subsidy. FG to Atiku.
And then you also see, well, campaigns have started. Of course, you see a lot of stories emerging there, front page politically as well. You also see Okorocha drags Uzodinma to court over APC senatorial candidacy. But what we go to now is the whistler. Yes, it's right there on your screen. Atiku Tinubu trade words over fuel subsidy removal. I will remove subsidy if elected president. That's Atiku speaking. Atiku's fuel subsidy plan retrogressive, will cripple Nigeria presidency. Atiku is a confused voodoo economist, and that's Wike speaking.
Okay, let's move over to the Business NG, which moves away from the subsidy issue. 2027 elections, 19 presidential, 127 governorship candidates face 571 billion naira spending limit. That's the Business NG leading with 2027 elections, 19 presidential, 127 governorship candidates face 571 billion spending limit. And I guess that's on the basis of the official takeoff of election campaigns yesterday.
All right, now let's look at Friday today. On that Friday, Al Jazeera Friday says Sokoto boat mishap. So they've taken that tragedy as their lead story. Tells us 41 killed, 11 rescued. Niwa, search for missing persons in progress. Survivors reunited with families. Area manager, 41 killed in Sokoto mishap. And that's what we find on the front page of the Al Jazeera Friday today.
And that's exactly what the leadership leads with this Friday. Over 40 dead in Sokoto boat tragedy. Over 40 dead in Sokoto boat tragedy, the lead headline in the leadership this Friday.
All right, Daily Asset is also leading with that, but you know, what I see here are different numbers, different front page spread. Boat capsizes here, it says claims 46, passengers in Sokoto River, rescue teams recover 15 victims, farmers, children among 77 passengers, and page 2, and that's Daily Asset. 2027 is still on the story there, just below the picture story, Presidency Atiku trade babs over petrol subsidy.
Okay, the Nigerian pilot also leads with the Sokoto story and a different set of figures as well. 40 feared dead in Sokoto with the riders as boat carrying over 70 passengers capsizes in Garo community. Another rider says incident occurred while victims were reportedly crossing a stream to access their farms. Pretty sad one there, if you ask me. Then 2027 election, at the bottom of that pilot front page, IG cautions youths against political violence, misinformation.
All right, so let's look at another storyline this morning. Observer's Times is observing, really, about After protest, CDS assures ailing angry military veterans of consequential pension rise. After protest, CDS assures ailing angry military veterans of consequential pension rise. Active troops pay rise raised to reflect in veterans' bank accounts from September. Defense Headquarters rolls out soft loans, dedicated hospital slots for aging ex-soldiers. And that's on page 1 of the front page of Observers and Times this morning.
And GWG.NG, Emmanuel's newspaper, zeroes in on developments in Delta State. Omar Gege's assassination claim ignites fiery Delta campaign. Omar Gege's assassination claim ignites fiery Delta campaign. The lead headline in the GWG.NG.
There are usually some stories on his papers that really offer some comic relief sometimes. This one says, I'm not a husband snatcher. He Ogbewo explains MC Oluomo affair, and that's on page 3 if you want some entertainment stories.
We're not allowing him to comment on that. We'll let him off the hook on that.
All right, Daily Newscraft is the next here, please. Front page says concerns over FCT's rising debt under Wike. Territory now second highest debtor among subnationals, DMO, and that's Debt Management Office. Experts caution against mounting debt, and that's on page 2 of the Daily Newscraft newspaper. All right, we also want to see other papers there. We do now go to Daily Independent. Structural gaps hold back Nigeria's 600K, and I'm sure that means 600,000 vehicle capacity. NADDC says 40 vehicle assembly plants now operational, and that's the Nigeria automotive sector talking about that, and says structural gaps hold back Nigeria's 600,000 vehicle capacity as the lead story.
All right, I think that wraps up the papers.
Absolutely, and
so
then
let's get into the talking. I mean, you didn't need to be a prophet to know that Atiku's comments on fuel subsidy was going to dominate the headlines, and it's exactly what it's done.
Yeah.
Emmanuel.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think this is a welcome development from the situation in 2023, where there was no debate about it. Now there's a debate. People are bringing forth their arguments. It is now for Nigerians to question and to interrogate the issues that are being brought forth. Atiku has been condemned by his political critics, has been desperate. Mark you, in 2023, I think he was also for subsidy removal, all of them. But now, I think, and from what I understand, there's been a rethink on the part of the ADC. I think it's one of the things they are likely to bring forth in their policy documents, that subsidy, it's, that the way it's been handled and the way it's been interrogated in the past was not very proper. In the sense that now you had President Bola Tinubu came in, said subsidy is gone. Irrespective of the fact that the use of subsidy, he didn't question it, how it was used and or misused. Because I, for one, I do not subscribe to the issue of, well, I may be a free market proponent, but I do know that every country in the world has a form of subsidy or the other for one commodity or the other. In the United States, there's a lot of subsidy that goes to farmers, even in terms of that goes to farmers. The EU has its, one of the highest allocations of the EU budget goes to farmers, to subsidize farmers. That's why you can't go hungry in the United States or in Europe. So, but in Nigeria, where we have something that could have used for competitive, to boost our industry, to boost the economy as a competitive advantage, but we totally neglected it because of the governance pattern. It is the governance pattern that allowed it that we built refineries all over around the country, but they were allowed to rot. So that is one. So somebody should interrogate that. I'm happy that Atiku has brought forth his arguments, and some of the issues he has brought forth. First of all, not to rely on subsidizing imports, but to subsidize the local economy, local production of petrol. So the subsidy is now bringing is that it should be targeted towards local refiners. They get a lesser amount of a price for the crude they are going to get, and the crude they are going to produce turn into refined products will be channeled to the local economy. Mm-hmm. That is one, and which is very important. And it's also said, I think, it's also said that it's going to be marked, it will be directed, and it will be also there's going to be a cap to it. There's going to be a cap to the amount of crude that is going to be given to the local refiners. Even more important, that is going to be budgeted. Unlike the present situation we have now, nobody knows how much is being expended. The federal government will come and tell you, this is what, the NNPC says this is what they have spent. And the federal accounts committee is deducted from the federal revenue, so which is not palatable. So I think this issue should be brought. Article should be questioned. How are you going to fund it?
That's the question they're asking him. They're calling him a voodoo economist.
Mm-hmm. So how are you going to fund it? That is what we expect from, that is the next argument we expect from Atiku. But to say that he's a voodoo, I don't subscribe to such. Okay. You bring forth your argument. Bring forth your argument. We need the administration, and not only Tinubu, all the other candidates. We need Peter Obi to also talk.
We were just saying that earlier.
Yes.
All say
so we need the major candidates to put forth their own arguments. How are you going to respond to this?
Gotcha. The question is saying is how. Like, I mean, it's not enough to just make the rhetorics.
You see, this is an election period. Campaign has started. We have several candidates, both at the national and state level. Atiku has come up with one of his points, that he will return subsidy. I think the attack he's getting from the presidency and ADC is shouldn't have been. Because what you will go and ask yourself, like Emma said, is how is he going to do it? And you sit down also, like the removal of subsidy was a fiat order. Mm-hmm. It was a fiat order, not deliberated. It was just a one-man decision. Upon assumption of office, the president announced that he has removed subsidy. And we ask ourselves, even the ruling party, the presidency should also sit down and say, having removed this, what has it impacted on the people? Because whatever policy we are rolling out is for the interest of Nigerians. You ask yourself, yes, for the past 3.5 years, or 3 years, we have removed the fuel subsidy, hoping that it will reflect positively on the life of Nigerians. But have we actualized that? You use your tongue, count your teeth. We have always been told that there are gains of subsidy removal. We have always been told that subsidy removal has added more to the coffers of the states. But has it reflected on the people? It's not about giving states more money. What have they done with this? Has this removal and the other economic policies they have taken, have they changed the life of Nigerians? Or have they only widened up the purse of the governors or the states? Any policy the government is making should not be targeted at, should not reflect only on a particular group of people. It is the masses, the welfare of Nigerians. So what I expect the ruling party to do is to sit down, instead of criticizing, lashing the ADC presidential candidate. You sit down and have an analysis of what you have done, because this is campaign. Any politician and a political party can come up with what he thinks can win him votes. Votes, like you said here. Yes, exactly, that can win him votes. It doesn't mean that if a policy is brought up, it cannot be retraced or removed. It doesn't also mean that if a policy is brought up, it cannot be improved on. So yes, we have seen a subsidy removal. We have seen floating of the naira for the past 3.5 years. But now, analyze it. How do we adjust? How do we remove? Do we, like Atiku said here that, like Emma said, it is not only about returning subsidy. This thing we are talking about, removal of subsidy, it is because there is number one enemy in Nigeria, corruption. It's just
that's the real issue.
That's the real issue. Atiku said that he will make sure that anybody that has in the subsidy money should money be returned. Had we taken the anti-corruption crusade to the fuel subsidy regime, the removal wouldn't have come. And the hardship it has inflicted on Nigerians shouldn't have been. So I think it is not about criticizing, lashing, and it is about, after all, we have an economic think tank. They should go back to the drawing board, analyze these things as they are going for this campaign. The policies we have put down, how have they gone? How have they impacted on the people? Is it positive? Is it negative? Should we adjust? Or should we return them? Or should we remove them? That is how it should be. But the major problem in subsidy, whether removal or non-removal, is corruption. Because even as we are talking about removal now, are we saying there is still no corruption in the petroleum industry? The answer is no. There is still high level of corruption.
It's interesting that Ezra should raise that this line of thought, because there's a lot of people who are answering those who are actually criticizing Atiku. They're saying, where was he 3 years ago when he was an advocate of subsidy removal? That what has he suddenly seen that he is speaking differently? And just like he said, some people have said, well, look, if he probably has analyzed the circumstances and things have changed from 3 years is a long time.
And then, sorry to bring in here, Marcus McCain says both Atiku Abubakar and Tinubu are just playing with masses of this country. They both have no idea on how to govern Nigeria because so on. I mean, this is your opinion. Nigeria will be okay soon by God's grace. Then someone also says, how about those who now get their increased salaries and pension on time without being owed endlessly? Are they uncommon men? So I think they're trying to also put, two of these
to justify
issues. Yes.
That, because just as my brother did say, undoubtedly, more money has been pumped to the states. But at what cost? Is it trickling down to the masses? And you also recall that the subsidy remover has also, despite the subsidy remover, the federal authorities and the federal government has borrowed more. So why are you borrowing? Whereas you said you have removed subsidy so that you can get money to translate into productive sectors. So that is the question. And there's, even as at this time, there's still lack of transparency. And that is the good thing in what Atiku is saying, that it's going to be monitored and it is going to be what? Audited, unlike the past. So in the past, somebody just came, brought in petroleum from the country. Some people were even fictitious papers. But now, it is not, the good thing with Atiku's proposal is that it is going to be channeled to the local refiners, which will now translate into a more employment, boost the local economy, and allow the money to remain in Nigeria. So that is the good thing. It will help to boost capacity.
So that does answer, what you're saying now does answer the questions that people are asking, that how does Atiku intend to go about what you're saying?
No, what people want Atiku to now bring forward is the cost elements, which he has not brought forth.
Okay.
He's now going to say, this is what is going to cost. This is what is going to, what will generate from it. I think it behoves on him now to go forth and explain that.
All right, Sani Ibrahim says there is nothing wrong with revisiting the removal of subsidy. Nation-subsidized energy, remove the corruption in it, and you can give a percentage of subsidy to balance incomes.
That is just it. Remove the corruption.
Address the corruption.
There is no country that doesn't subsidize energy and power. It's only in Nigeria that you see us talking about fuel subsidy removal, self-subsidy return, and stuff like that. Like Emma said, how many of these states that their purse have swollen up now because of subsidy?
think the Daily Newscraft talked something about no state in
and
this,
the federal government
and
itself.
even the federal government. There has been no quarter that the National Assembly is not giving a loan request.
Yeah, so Daily News highest debt.
But this is also a federal capital territory that has been receiving, that has express order. Get money and spend. Yes, the administration is doing enough as far as infrastructure is concerned. But what we are saying is that the gains of this, the so-called, let me use the word in quote, gains of this fuel subsidy removal have not reflected on the people, because the states are wallowing in debts. The federal government itself, like I've said, there are no quarter of the 3.5 years so far spent, that the presidency never forwarded a loan request to the National Assembly. Some, even the Minister of Finance and the coordinating Minister of the Economy, yesterday said that they cannot disclose what they have done with some of the loans.
Yes. That was
Is that acceptable?
I was on the Whistler this morning. Federal government won't publish how $5 billion
you can imagine that
is spent.
It's not a personal fund. It's not. It is a public loan. A loan government is taking on behalf of Nigerians. On behalf of Nigeria. And you said you cannot disclose what you are doing with it.
All right, let's quickly go to another talking point this morning, another one that is tragic. Boat capsizes, claims 46 passengers in Sokoto River, daily asset, pilot leadership. Al Jazeera this Friday led with that. But some papers also ran with different numbers. We saw some say 50, some said over 40, some said 46.
Whatever the numbers, it's
tragic.
a tragedy.
Whatever it is, the loss of a Nigerian life, it's tragic enough. But unfortunately, all these border on what, as I earlier said, governance issues. And why do we have recurrent boat mishaps in Nigeria? It is lack of policy, enforcement of policies. Now, you will see that in this case now, I think it's, by some of the reports, you discover that the boat was also alleged to be oversized, overcrowded, and in some other cases, many of them do not enforce safety measures.
Like life rafts and stuff like that.
I think it's some time ago, NIWA or so, or NEMA, did make a report that many of the boat tragedies in Nigeria are attributable to human factors. Human factors arising from the authorities and the boat operators. Nigeria is such a blessed country. We don't have natural disasters. We don't have hurricanes as such.
For now.
You understand? But it is the tragedy of governance, of those in government, that continue to inflict such disasters on Nigeria. Whether it's Boko Haram, whether it's boat man-made disasters. That is what we are having. And if we can address these issues, ensure that boat operators come forward with correct safety procedures. They do not overcrowd their boats, you understand? They do not travel in the night. They have lights. If they have to travel in the night, they should have lamps and such.
Let's look at how Nigerian pilot, runs with it. It says, as boat carrying over 70 passengers capsized in Gorau community, incident occurred while victims were reportedly crossing a stream to access their farms. Most of those on board, according to reports, were children aged between 10 and 15 years. 40 bodies reportedly recovered, while 6 people, including village head, were rescued. So predominantly a lot of minors were on that boat, and of course we could tell that they probably were not also wearing life jackets or could swim.
And another tragedy we see is lack of compassion from the authorities. If this were to have happened in some other country, the leaders of the country would have immediately responded. I have not heard the president, the Senate president, the governors, or arriving at this scene. They do not show compassion. If we had something like this happen, immediately the president arrived there. Next time, and gave instructions and orders. Next time, it will trigger a response among some other boat operators and other boat operators for them to be considerate in whatever they are doing. But now there's a lack of compassion.
Well, I don't really want to trivialize the incident, but do you really think that if something like that happens, that the president should show? What about the state governor? Or I mean,
should show interest?
No, not show. I mean, you're saying go there physically.
Yes.
Well,
even if the president doesn't,
some executive presence,
even if he doesn't go there,
yes,
show his physical this thing, I think it is a very mournful situation.
Absolutely,
it is. The federal government should also show this compassion, like Emma said, not only showing physically, but these things are happening because, like I have said here, we don't know what governance is all about in this country. Why am I saying that? You see, when a government comes into power, somebody, one of our co-reviewers online, has said that our administrators lack knowledge of governance. And why am I saying this? There is an agency called NIWA, Nigerian Inland Waterways Authority, that is saddled with the responsibility of Nigerian waterways. But what is the capacity of those who are at NIWA? This idea of winner take all, we don't put people who are specialized in certain fields to man those areas. When we win election, we look for those who carried ballot boxes for us. We look for those who scattered the polling units. We look at looking at their leaders. We give them appointments. Indiscriminately, we place them even where they don't know anything about.
Like Shield said.
So what will you now get? What we sow is what we reap. If we put people, specialists, manning specialized areas, these type of things will not happen. When you talk about an overloaded boat, is it supposed to be? Who is monitoring the waterways? What are the policies? Must you enter a boat without guarding yourself? Who are the people implementing this?
Lots and lots of questions.
But because there are nobody, the agencies, not only NIWA, every other agency in Nigeria is being manned by politicians.
As a matter of fact, that was what was addressed yesterday when we talked about the appointment of the new head of service, about where we have more generalists than specialists. But we must move over to the last talking point, and it's quickly coming from the Observer's Times, and the issue of military veterans protesting, and
demanding for their pensions.
For their pension, which was granted. And in fact, when it came up on Kakaaki socials yesterday, where there was a lot of anger that the military people were harsh on the veterans, trying to
which they will become someday.
Which they will become someday. So we'll just quickly touch on that before we round up.
I think it's quite unfortunate that our veterans, our heroes past, are being zeroed in terms of their entitlements. So whatever response we are now seeing from the CDS as concerning the payment of these outstanding pensions is welcome. We commend the CDS, himself being a retired, the CDS being a military man. We commend him because it's whatever you sow, as he said, is that what you will reap. So since you are still in uniform, if you do well for those who have left, when you pull off your uniform, you also get a commensurate response to your actions.
But it's also heart-wrenching to watch them, in this weather.
I think I even saw a senior officer, a colonel also, amongst them, which is quite unfortunate.
January we celebrate Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
What are we celebrating?
What are we celebrating?
But I must also say,
I also want to applaud the CDS for his intervention.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very, I thumbed him up. My plea here is that let this intervention not be like the temporary measure.
All right.
These veterans must be respected and their pension.
And if I may
the
add,
CBS stumble
it should also cascade not only to the veterans, but to others who worked in the civil service.
Indeed.
Every person that is entitled to a pension
Just a
should
quick
get
one.
his
Someone
pension.
says that NIWA is, I think you mentioned NIWA earlier. NIWA is underfunded. They have a warped mandate directed more at water transport rather than safety. And by the way, they don't have a chief executive. Their MD was the APC candidate.
Yes,
in
in
Osun.
us,
So it was busy.
So you see it now.
No business with
These are governance issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very unfortunate.
Thank you for that.
All right, just we got governance issues to run here on Kakaaki, so we're just going to have to manage our time properly. And thank you, gentlemen, again for ending the newspaper review week with us. Ima and Izochan, go out there and have yourselves
a Friday tonic.
Yeah, Friday tonic, men. I remember that. All right.
All right, so we do have our next talking point, and of course we talked about xenophobia earlier on when we started our introductions this morning. Deadlines in September, you know, mount things off saying, well, we are not a xenophobic country like we have been marked to be, but we will start that conversation right after this break. Stay with us.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say by and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program inside the parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says,
but who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
All right, it's the Friday edition of Kakaaki, the African Voice, and it's time to start talking. Yes, we did tell you earlier that we're going to beam our searchlight on xenophobia in South Africa. And earlier this week, the Consul General of South Africa in Lagos, Bobby Moreau, set the cat amongst the pigeons on Wednesday when he angrily rejected the xenophobia tag that was placed on South Africa. While he did acknowledge that South Africa had experienced violent anti-migrant incidents, he said it was wrong to actually label the whole country as xenophobic.
Yes, yeah, he did mention that, its constitutional provisions in South Africa says that treatment of migrants and efforts to regularize undocumented foreigners do not support such characterization, and so it's out of context.
And also earlier in the week, the March and March staged protests, giving a September 10 deadline to undocumented migrants to quit the country. And also this week, it was 83 Nigerians brought back to South Africa, yes, amidst calls from the federal government for states to get more involved and for people in South Africa to also add to the call for more assistance to bring more stranded Nigerians back home.
Nathan, that's why we're talking about this morning. South Africa's xenophobia update. We have Austin Okeke joining us virtually, former chairman, Nigerian community in South Africa. Good morning, Austin. It's great to have you.
Good morning.
All right, so at a roundtable organized in Lagos by the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, South Africa's Consul General angrily told the gathering there that it was unfair to label his country as a xenophobic country or nation based, of course, on the country's constitutional rights and provisions for dealing with illegal migration. But you've seen what's happened in South Africa. You've seen the movement. You've seen the anger and, of course, the aggression at, migrants and even foreigners, especially black foreigners. What's your review of this treatment, and how do you also, perhaps, in your opinion, attach your views to this statement by the Consul General?
Thank you very much. From your observation, since the xenophobia issue started, you would understand that the South African government has been very incoherent when they address the public about this xenophobia. So I know they are very embarrassed about it. They don't know actually what to begin to respond to. So that's why they are incoherent when they talk to the public. And I disagree with whatever it is that the Consul General of South Africa said in Nigeria. They have not denied, the March and March people here have not denied their aggression towards Africans and their anti-immigrant sentiments against black Africans, indeed. So they are very incoherent, they are embarrassed, they don't know how to admit it. It is all about, it's written all about the place that these guys are xenophobic.
Okay, it may not sound coherent, but perhaps aren't there some elements of merit in what the Consul General has said? He has said, yes, he's acknowledged the fact that there are violent anti-migrant protests, but he said he's labeled the whole country because that involves the government and the people of South Africa as xenophobic, if you want to look at it like that. Isn't there some merit in that argument to some extent?
We have seen since April when this thing started, we have seen them pointing fingers at one tribe against the other. Some are saying Zulu nationalism. The people of Venda in Limpopo province don't want the Banch and March people to come to their province. The Xhosa people, the Mandela tribe, are saying, no, we are not part of this. So they are, the Sutu, the Tuanas, they are pointing fingers. The Consul General represents the entire country. He cannot then go to Lagos and say, no, we are not all xenophobic, when it is very apparent on the streets that the South African citizens don't like foreigners. That's the literal meaning of xenophobia.
All right, okay. Then, of course, when you think about the March and March vigilante stage of protest at an international forum in Durban and announced the fresh deadline of September 10th for undocumented, the word there is undocumented migrants to leave the country, the group is no longer issuing deadlines. They're no stranger to issuing deadlines. And we know that from what happened the last time, we saw the aggression, we saw the fuss. In fact, we saw the violence against migrants, even on some of them, although were counted on social media. But these issues exist. when you give a deadline within an African plane to other Africans, doesn't it also sound xenophobic? And how do you create a borderline or boundary between doing what's right for your country and also what's right diplomatically?
Yeah, this basically what the Consul General said in Nigeria and what they are doing here are mutually destructive. You can agree with me that they are always very incoherent when they address the issue of xenophobia, because it is true and they are very embarrassed. You cannot have a vigilante group come and issue ultimatum to fellow human beings in your country, yet you are claiming there is rule of law, yet you are claiming that we have constitutional democracy in South Africa. So one thing they have failed to address is that when these people go, the march and march people go protest and march on the street, they destroy properties and lives inclusive. The Gathering Act of South Africa is the enabling instrument that allows the government to grant permission for people to go march and protest on the street. Within that same Gathering Act, there's a clause, a paragraph that says, if anything goes wrong, damage to property and lives, the leaders of the march will be held responsible. But we see them partying every day. We have seen destructions on the street and people's lives ruined and killed. Yet these guys are free marching now, even going to this SADC region conference. Your SADC region is your Southern African Development and Economic Committee, just like you have ECOWAS. They go there and demonstrate. The government still grant them the permit to protest. So what are they talking about?
All right. Like the March and March are no strangers to the issue of protest. Now there's a new deadline, September 10th. Are there any fears that something bad may start happening from September the 10th if they don't see the undocumented migrants out of the country as they're demanding?
Now, since the June 30 ultimatum come and gone, we've been having march and march on the streets every Thursday, like they promised. So the one of September 10 or September 30 will not make any difference. So we know it's mayhem. We know it's just madness on the street. We know that the government has no control of these vigilante groups. So we take it as one of those that we have been witnessing. The government has not condemned the ultimatum issued out by a vigilante group, for God's sake. Yeah. You know, and all they are busy doing is chasing, clutching on straws.
When you say clutching straws, are you saying the government's doing absolutely nothing about these vigilante groups and the violence and mayhem they're unleashing on the people there?
These guys are empowered because the statement, the public comment from the presidency is empowering, for these guys. That's why they go out on the street and, behave as they like without consequence, in full view of police and other law enforcement agencies. So nothing has happened, nothing will happen to these guys.
Amazing.
I mean, you can look at the businesses all being burned in that visual.
Terrible
and,
stuff.
People marching with spears and it just feels like something out of a reality TV show, but this is real time. Now, let's talk about the returnees. 83 Nigerians evacuated from South Africa arrived Lagos on Wednesday, made possible by a collective effort that you were part of. Tell us about this action.
Oh yes, a group of well-meaning Nigerians came together. They want to remain anonymous, and they sponsored close to 200 passengers. Then, a few days ago, we had another angel, who sponsored 5. So we are now sitting on 205 passengers to come home. The first batch left 2 days ago. 83 returned to Lagos via South African Airways, on board South African Airways. Then the second batch of 66 will be next week on Wednesday. Then subsequent batches shall be made known to you and to the public, because we have to then process them through the South African Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Police, and the Nigerian High Commission, through the immense efforts of the Consul General of Nigeria, Ambassador Nini Kanwa Okeuchi, who has been very, very active in this, who has been also reaching out to Nigerians, for assistance. Then people like us then join in to help to co-facilitate and to co-raise the funds. So she's been on the forefront, in this. I must commend her. I'm talking about the Consul General of Nigeria, Ambassador Nini Kanwa Okeuchi.
Okay, that's nice to hear. So how have you been able to navigate? Because we are aware that there are laws which don't grant amnesty to illegal immigrants, if I could use that language, before they're allowed to leave the country. With this recent evacuations, how have you been able to navigate through that?
There has been a negotiation, with the government. So there's a waiver, amnesty sort of. If you have overstayed in South Africa or you do not have a legal permit for a long time, usually is a crime, it's an offense. And so when we then process these people for evacuation or repatriation, as the case may be, the South African authority do not attach any offense to it. The only penalty would be that they are prohibited from coming in to the country between 1 year and 5 years, depending on the severity of their offense. So there has been no arrest when it is organized by the High Commission and the Consul General of Nigeria. But when an individual goes to travel, purchase a ticket, and you have overstayed, which is an offense, the South African immigration then arrests the person and detain the person, and the ticket, effort on the ticket is wasted, because then the person will have to then go reconfirm and pay penalty on the ticket. And these are people that do not have money. It then defeats the purpose of them telling people to leave their country.
Absolutely.
If somebody has said, okay, I'm buying my ticket, why arrest the person? Why then spend taxpayers' money that you are crying over and keep this person in your detention, feed the person in your detention for weeks? It doesn't make any sense. So they have to have a uniform policy on this repatriation or deportation, as the case may be, and allow every person that wants to go, whether you have overstayed or not overstayed.
So a lot of people will say this is migrant repression and, perhaps, high-handedness, and even the fact that these people are willing and you're still trying to make it as difficult as possible to leave. It still shows, is there any real
It's just like Austin said, it makes no sense. You want these people out, they say they want to go, and you're now saying they can't go.
Absolutely. So what is this really about, really? And I think that's what the question should be doing at the moment. But let's first of all get to know about the numbers. How many Nigerians are in South Africa right now who want to leave but cannot, and those who have money or who have the funds who want to leave, but of course, like you just said, the law does not permit them because of the immigration laws. Is there a number to it? Are we expecting more returnees?
Okay, the government and Airpeace, their collaboration airlifted about 1,490 something, and the efforts of the group of Nigerian businesses that came together is going to airlift 205. And beyond that, we still have people coming in every day from different provinces, different corners of South Africa, coming to register, to go home. And so we cannot truly place a figure until we have gotten their names on the list. So if we add the one the federal government and Airpeace did, and the one we are currently doing, which is about 205, then the one we have on the list is about 350 currently. Tomorrow the number will change. So this is something that we face every day. The number keeps increasing.
Okay, so from what you're saying, like it's an ongoing thing, so it's difficult to put a lid regarding numbers. Okay, what do you make of because we heard the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's the federal government, saying that state governments should get more involved. I mean, to complement efforts from individuals and groups like yourself to facilitate those who want to return to Nigeria to do so. What do you make of the federal government's, can we call it an outreach to the state governments to get involved? Because it's going to make your job a whole lot easier too.
If they do.
I'll be so glad if they come in now. We need help like yesterday. And I'm happy about what the Foreign Affairs Minister has said. I like her comment. I like the way she's encouraging state governments to get involved. So I will be so glad that they come in. Initially, we had thought that the government of Nigeria said, okay, we've done 5 flights and no more. So then we all went out to private sector seeking help. So now the government is back. So we'll be so happy to see them, work with us. It's a disaster here.
Indeed. I mean, outside Nigeria, how are other countries that you've witnessed, how are they handling this crisis?
Yeah, you have the Ugandans, you have the Malawians, you have the Zambians, Mozambicans, Zimbabweans, Lesotho, Botswana. They are close by. People from Cameroon, the DRC, they are close by. But we are further away. These guys can come in by bus or go home by bus. So the Ghana, Nigeria, and all those in the West Africa, further away. So our own is prominent because we have to then use their airports. Then the ones using the land borders are not that, on the news, except for the Malawians. About 5 of them have been kept in a place they call refugee camp. I see it as a concentration camp. It's something they quickly fix in the middle of nowhere in a forest, away from civilization, and they come and tell you that they are not Afrophobic or they are not xenophobic. And so that's made news because they say it's a refugee camp, but we see it as a concentration camp in the middle of nowhere, no civilization. I'm wondering how they deal with sanitation there.
All right.
There was talk of some kind of collaboration going on between Nigeria and Ghana. I don't know if there's another country involved in trying to take this xenophobia issue further, to probably try and make the South African government realize that their rejection of the xenophobia tag could not be further from the truth. Are you aware of any such collaborations going on, and more efforts to put pressure on the South African government, like you stated quite rightly, which needs to be doing more in this matter instead of just, the rhetoric that we're getting from the Consul General and other South Africans, including the President himself?
Yes, Nigeria and Ghana are actually leading. They're in the forefront. They have taken the matter to African Union. And I understand something also happened at the Pan-African Parliament here in South Africa. So we also have our, Chief Femi Falana-Osan, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, taking South Africa to AU, or this is on a private level. And I'm sure other people had approached countries like Ghana and Nigeria and other neighboring countries to see what they can do by, holding South Africa to account, especially their governments that have appeared to like what they see on the streets. So yeah, I know about the collaboration.
All right. I mean, when you said the concentration camp, really, it took my mind back to the Nazis' concentration camps for,
the Jews.
Yes, during the Holocaust, where you had, what we called, some called it killing camps and, exit genocide camps. And it's very frightening to even hear you say that, but that's exactly what is in existence. I mean, you just named it. Now, going forward, what's the way out of the xenophobia problem? Because I can tell you there are even Nigerian students in South African University. I mean, I know quite a couple of them who are quite frightened that this thing could actually, probably just hatch onto into the education sector, where they'll start visiting schools to try to, get students who are of non-South African origin, and asking them to leave, regardless of how much money they've paid in terms of fees. So,
sorry, in addition to that, I even have a nephew who's a DJ. He's a big-time DJ in Johannesburg. So I'm just...
I hope he's safe.
Well, he's safe because he's still playing good music, and I think he's keeping the people happy, so he's pretty safe.
I hope so. But how do we move from the xenophobia issue? I mean, it's a problem that seems to be lingering and festering as well. Do you think there's any end in sight?
What you see recently, the issue of another ultimatum by March and March, do not suggest any end in sight. But I believe the two governments can come together. AU can come together and address this migration issue. Migration did not start in our generation. It's an age-long, phenomenon, human phenomenon. So and it will not stop in this generation. I think they just know how to manage it, because at the end of the day, we are all Africans. We are one. Humanity is one. So they should sit and, talk to themselves. They should stop, pushing blames. South Africa should admit to it. This issue of using diplomacy to respond to guilt or to avoid liability doesn't help, because your citizens on the street, on the one hand, are actually telling you that you are lying. When the president says one thing, this citizen go do another thing. Some mayhem the next day. So they should just own up to it and sit on the table with us. We are all human. We studied here. I went to school in South Africa. I practice here like various other people, professionals too. Like you said, it will creep into the schools. It has. It's crept into the primary school, the secondary school. What has happened after June 30 was that some researchers who are non-South Africans left with their families for fear of attack or assault or death. And now the universities are looking for researchers to come and assist. So it's not only affecting the lives of the so-called foreigners, it has also affected academic activities in the institutions, South African institutions.
Okay, Austin, I think it's safe to anchor the discussion there. Austin Okeke, former chairman of the Nigerian community in South Africa, who's also been pretty active in efforts towards the evacuations of Nigerians trying to get back to Nigeria. Austin, many thanks for your time, and you stay safe, because with what's going on, nothing's predictable these days, but stay safe. You've been there for some time, so you're like a homeboy of some sorts. So we'll continue to rely on you for useful information and updates from South Africa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you so much for listening to that. It's quite heart-wrenching, but again, like he says, a lot needs to be done in such a short time, and more people need to get out of South Africa, and the earlier, the better. Well, we do know that top of the hour, we go to see what's happening this Friday on Kakaaki Socials, and we do have Lady A Square, like I like to call her, Anyaole Avotu is coming, AA. She'll be right here shortly.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Good morning and welcome to Kakaaki Social. I am Anyole Avoto. It's Friday and we're glad to have you with us. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar says the presidential election will be his final attempt to become Nigeria's president. The African Democratic Congress ADC presidential candidate says he will not seek another presidential nomination if he loses in 2027. He also urged Nigerians to participate actively in the election and remain at polling units to ensure their votes are properly counted. His declaration has triggered fresh debate. Could 2027 truly mark the end of Atiku's long presidential journey? All right, let's take reactions from this. Austin Ike is saying, you can imagine this man. 2021 is the northern turn and you want to stay away from it. By God's grace, you will be healthy and still be on the ballot again. And MC Ugumadu is saying, Atiku is declaring clearly that he won't contest a second term in office. After winning the 2027 election, he won't run again. Rotimi Amechi will thereafter continue his legacy. Kai, it grieves me that Peter Obi will miss this golden opportunity. Such is life. And Game is saying, Oga, you must contest in 2027. Join hands with Peter Obi. Let's defeat Tinubu and APC together. Atiku, I beg. And the final thought on this one, Moradayo is saying, Arsenal didn't give up, so don't give up either. All right, a fresh political debate is brewing ahead of the 2027 elections as FCT Minister Nyesom Wike criticizes former Vice President Atiku Abubakar over his proposal to restore fuel subsidy if elected president. Wike questioned Atiku's position, recalling he reported 2022 comments describing fuel subsidy as a fraud and pledging to remove it. Wike accused Atiku of inconsistency, calling him an economist, and allegedly that he would say anything to win the presidency.
For Atiku, who is confused, who has like a good economist, Atiku will say anything just to be president. This was a man in 2022 that he was going to remove the fuel subsidy because it was a fraud. Now in 2026, he was not going to remove the fuel subsidy. Is it going back to the front, which they are next, that fuels of the worst? You know, we should be able to be consistent in what we send to our people. We should know what leadership is all about. Leadership is not you coming and you say one thing in the morning, in the afternoon, you say a different thing. In the night, you're talking about a different thing. That's not it. If I think we should be fair. Today, under the Petroleum Act, under the Petroleum Industry Act, NNPC can be fully commercialized. It's not a limited liability company.
All right, let's take reactions. Northstar is saying, I think Wike should be focused on restoring Abuja back to the state he met it. He has messed up the capital. Those are Northstar's thoughts there. And Slave of Truth is saying, Atiku is the problem of opposition in Nigeria. And Jason is saying, politics and mouthwash is 5 and 6. All right, now, a video circulating online has attracted attention after Hajiya Rukaya Adamu, wife of former IGP and Nasarawa State SDP governorship candidate Mohammed Abubakar Adamu, was seen crossing a river with escorts during a community engagement. The footage shows her making her way into a community to meet residents as her husband continues his campaign for the 2027 Nasarawa governorship election. The unusual campaign journey has generated mixed reactions online, with some praising the grassroots outreach, while others question whether such gestures will translate into electoral support. Wow. Let's unpack what we just watched with some reactions. So this user at Northerner is saying, Nigerian politicians always surprise me. This woman is going through all this just to become First Lady of Nasarawa State. It's crazy how things you wouldn't do for the sake of God, you will end up doing for politics. And honestly, it's unnecessary. Why can't they just get her a boat to cross the river? And Kenny West A is saying, the annoying part is that if he eventually gets the ticket, he may not even remember that such a place needs infrastructure. Engineer Shamaki is saying, they refuse to build a better roads and bridges in big 2026. And the fantastic are clapping and sharing eye-service videos of them crossing rivers to reach villages they abandoned, again just to campaign and lie. Nigerian politicians are shameless. And final thoughts on this one, Ms. Bilikisu is saying, at all. Let them see how poor people are living their day-to-day lives. All right. A dangerous scene unfolded in Lagos after a diesel-laden tanker overturned, spilling its contents across the road. Despite the obvious risks, several residents and passersby were reportedly seen attempting to collect the spilled diesel in containers. Emergency responders, including fire service personnel, LASMA, and security agencies, moved to secure the area and prevent the situation from escalating. The incident has once again highlighted the potential deadly consequences of approaching overturned tankers and spilled petroleum products. Okay, let's take reactions from this now. Port Harcourt schoolboy says, Nigerians will never learn. When something like this happens, you do your best to stay far away from the vicinity. What if suddenly there is fire? You'll be blamed. Who? Your village people. Some problems are caused by. Let's take another comment. And Solomon Terris is saying, as dangerous as this is, It tells you everything you need to know about the current level of poverty and desperation. People are literally looking at a moving bomb and seeing a financial lifeline. The system has pushed citizens to the edge. G45 is saying, even if Nigerians know that something can take their life, they will still risk it, and it doesn't worth it. Final thoughts on this, and Wale Insight is saying, my people are perishing from the lack of knowledge. Yes, now a brief exchange between UBA chairman Tony Elumelu and a graduate trainee has sparked an online debate over workplace respect and titles. During an interactive session, the trainee reportedly greeted him with, "Good morning, Tony." Elumelu responded by asking her to address him as Mr. Elumelu or Mr. Tony, adding that he does not subscribe to that kind of Oyinbo life. The exchange has reignited conversations about hierarchy, respect, and whether modern workplaces should maintain traditional forms of addressing senior executives. Let's watch this.
Okay. Good morning, Tony.
Tony.
I said good morning, Tony.
Okay, no, you won't call me Tony. I'm not those people. You call me Mr. Elumelu or Tioyi. You won't call me Tony or Chairman. I don't subscribe to that kind of Oyibo life, okay? All right.
Good morning, Mr. Elumelu.
Thank
so my
you.
question is, how do you know if you are to keep going?
All right, let's take reactions. Let's see what you're saying about this. Now, Oreoluwa Bukola is saying, when I say come, let me teach you business and office politics, you will not answer. Even Oyinbo, after calling them by their first name, you get how we they wrap the respect inside for paper. All right, and Egwe is saying, it really comes down to organization culture. I've worked in places where my ogas were addressed strictly as sir, and others where everyone used first names, but I'm still not saying good morning, Tony, to my Nigerian chairman in a Nigerian firm, Sha. Wisdom is profitable to direct. And Ben X is saying, if it is company policy to refer people by their first name, why is the chairman above this policy? I understand the cultural sentiments, but she's doing exactly what HR promotes. If he doesn't subscribe to it, then should not be a company policy. And final thoughts on this one, Ladi Ogunsheye is saying, nobody should try and shame the babe, Sha. What she did is professional. Which one is home training there? All right. Now, a social media post has raised concern over an alleged scheme involving POS withdrawal. According to the account, the man is not a POS operator, but allegedly approaches merchants and asks to make withdrawals. The post claims he gives the merchant a random amount, waits for the transaction to be entered, and the POS terminal handed over for his PIN, then suddenly declines the transaction. His alleged motive remains unclear, and the claim has not been independently verified. Let's watch this.
As I don't take it like this, as the person give me, the person will want for my transaction. I will hold them up and I will not dismiss this one now. If I dismiss this one now, I'll come because after you check balance, under you see history. Yes. So as you just scroll on see history, I just tap the history, tap the local history. The thing will come show the last transaction way in do last. So I think it's still sure. Compress back, then tell them to do the same amount we did there for that last. That's the amount we see for the last history. You might take the hair. I'll come press. I'll go give me a to press my pin. I will pull my card out small without the notice. Okay. Like this now. When I go come type my pin. Excuse me, when you put that card, no go know. She no go know now. Nothing they tell you. I go come type my pin. Put on. I type my pin. It will come show me transaction because I can't press dismiss. Sometimes if you press here. The last thing we do, we can't show for the minimizing system, you can show as successful like that. Then I'll control my card.
Okay.
Give the person.
Thank you. So tell us where you're from and what will be on it. Okay. From Bouake, good boy.
Yes.
Okay. So the
Let's take reactions. So Excel No Mayo is saying, for those who didn't understand his statement, he is not a merchant. He approaches merchants that he wants to make a withdrawal. He first tells them a random amount. When the merchant fits in his request and hands him the POS to enter his PIN, this man here will decline the request. And SN is saying, what is wrong with Nigerians? Why must we find a way to bring down every single thing that has tried to sustain us as a people? Please kindly forward to protect your families and loved ones. And Goody Coco is saying, every future designed for convenience in a system is a tool for exploitation in the hands of fraudulent people. Final thoughts on this one, and M3 Fruity Zobo is saying, vendors, please be careful. A lot of scams are currently out there. Another batch of 83 distressed Nigerians repatriated from South Africa has arrived in Lagos, comprising 58 adults and 25 children. The returnees arrived abroad from South Africa Airways flight at SA060 and are undergoing biometric clearance under supervision of the Nigerians in diaspora Commission NIDCON. The exercise is reportedly the first repatriation from South Africa conducted by commercial flights. Following 7 previous batches transported by chartered aircraft, authorities are coordinating the reception, documentation, and processing the returnees.
Where is yours? Wait, now let's share. Let's share. This is your own. Yeah.
All right. Now you is saying presidential campaign has commenced. So welcome to these 58 adults and 25 children who have successfully returned from South Africa. If they don't have PVC to vote out APC and Tinubu in 2027, then they should advise and encourage their friends and relatives to do so on their behalf. Chris Onye Ezioku is saying, well, it's better they are home alive. South Africans should wait for us. We are coming soon. Those are Chris's thoughts there. A U.S. judge in Dallas County, Texas, has warned that deleting messages, social media posts, or other information from a phone does not necessarily mean the data has disappeared permanently. Judge Kelly reportedly explained that digital information may survive through backups, records, or other sources and could potentially be recovered as part of an investigation, drawing from her experience as a former persecutor. She cautioned people against assuming that deleted information can never be retrieved. However, claimed that everything on your cell phone is forever in an oversimplification, as some data can be permanently deleted while other copies may remain elsewhere. And that's let's watch this video.
Go away. Did you know that if you delete something from your cell phone, it's not really deleted? I'm Judge Kelly, a criminal judge here in Dallas County, Texas, and I want to take 60 seconds to teach you some things you should know about the criminal justice system before you find yourself in the criminal justice system. Did y'all know that everything on your cell phone is forever ever on your cell phone? Did you know that if you delete something from your cell phone, it's not really deleted? I used to be a prosecutor for 13 and a half years, and I prosecuted child abusers. And when I tell you, I could pull anything. I don't care how long ago it was. I could pull your records, your text messages, your social media posts that you deleted, your messages that you deleted out of your deleted box. I can get your DMs. I could get it all. It doesn't go away. So if you committing crimes on your phone, it doesn't go away.
All right, let's take reactions. Don Sterry is saying, been wanting to ask, that question, where does all those files we delete from our phones go to? Thin air? And Solomon Therese is saying, me trying to remember what I searched in 2018 that could potentially send me to federal prison under this rule. Now, Obi of Abuja is saying, does our EFCC in Abuja have such access to our deleted informations? If yes, then why is it hard for them to arrest corrupt politicians? And final thoughts on this, Ruthie is saying, I beg, oh, so the educational videos that I deleted, Unko, God please, oh. All right, and that's where we draw the curtains on today's segment on Kakaaki Social. I am Anyole Abotu. You can follow us at AIT_online. You can also catch me at X at Anyole Abotu. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you again.
Excuse me, ma. This is your 100% in year.
Babes, are you sure you want to spend this much on hair? Since your landlord just increased rents, I saved for this one separately on Money Point.
Ma, you say you save on Money Point?
Yes.
This Madam Money Point here, the array of your dryer there, his target savings money points I used to have it. The rest of this my sub is fee savings money points I used to do it. The salary of this my staff is save as you transact, son.
Jennifer, Money Point save as you transact. Money Point fixed savings and Money Point target savings.
What's up? Why did I tell you don't contribute to you? Why should they? Come on, oh, you go give your money to Adaku to save. You see Money Point accounts there. You know go open a savings account. Now Adaku you shoot. I beg everybody inside this my saloon. Oh yeah, bring out your phone and download the Money Point app now. Even you. What are you waiting for?
Download the Money Point banking app now and start saving the bank you can trust.
Money Point, made for your progress. Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Ray Power Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
If you're just joining us, it's the Friday edition of Kakaaki, the African Voice, and if you've been with us since we got started at 6 a.m. local time, all we can say is well done.
And thank you as well. Well, it's time for us to bring you our second conversation. Earlier on, we thought we'll be looking at political developments, and because we saw a lot of it, front page newspapers this morning, headlining some of the stories. We are joined by Kenneth as executive lead at Speak Out Africa Initiative. He's joining us virtually. Good morning, Kenneth.
Good morning, AIT. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, all right. I don't know if you watched what had transpired in the last hour or so on the program, but clearly the Osun State is still in the news almost a week after the governorship elections were held. We had the violence or the tension that came about in Osogbo when the governor and his family visited the Atauja of Osogbo. We've also heard people raising eyebrows about the governor's support for President Tinubu's re-election bid. And we've also heard, in spite of all the good things that have been said about the election, that it's not quite Uhuru as we are counting down to the 2027 elections. Give us your general take on what's happened in Osun State during the election and in the last week or so.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Of course, the issue about Osun State's post-election conversation, I think it is now we ought to be having such a discussion because an unexamined life, according to the philosopher, is not worth living. Somehow, of course, you know, most people are carried away, like you also alluded to, about the outcome of the election. Maybe possibly their projection came to be. If it had went the other way around, maybe the party in power at the federal had had their way and will declare winner. Today, I am very, very sure that everybody would have been seen from the same lens that some of us, especially the civil society organization, are seen from. Just yesterday, you saw KDI, Key Party Development Initiative, several organizations, the Situation Room, have been releasing general assessment. And what I'm saying is that we at the civil society organization are never concerned about the outcome of any election. And by that, we are not partisan. We do not have any preferred candidates or preferred person who should win. In fact, for us as Speak Out Africa Initiative, we know that election is more like a contestation, and it is almost like a settled matter that a winner is going to emerge. So that for us is a dotted constant. It was the process that led to the declaration of that outcome. The process. And that is somehow an aspect that the people, the citizens, most people, a closer look at to take aback prior to the election, during the election, post-election. How did the process go? Can we actually say that the process complied and went the way it was? Of course, we have released our own statements. For us, while we commended INEC, like other stakeholders in some areas, we have scored INEC, the processes that led to the election, poorly. That is for us. And we had our key performance indicators that we made public that we use in assessing the processes. So because for us, if these processes are not known, if the electoral umpire can tamper or any other stakeholder can tamper with the process anytime and yet give us an outcome, you know, as a way of appeasing us, then we are not in democracy, we are in danger. Now, the reason is because what if an election comes, like the 2027 election coming, and they refuse or they now veer off
All right, I don't know if you can hear me.
From the same that comes.
I think we're getting some audio seizures
Yes.
there. Well, I think what Kenneth is actually trying to say, we'll probably try and help him out while we get his audio back, that it's great to have elections, great even when, I mean, the popular candidate wins, but at the end of the day, the processes have to be intact because, I mean, it may happen where the guy you want to win doesn't win, and then you start criticizing the process.
Absolutely.
So I think he's talking about the need for consistency.
Indeed, and again, the review also shows, you know, the fact that we're getting into the campaign seasons, and then, of course, to the 2027 election, a lot of these issues will be coming to the fore, and the questions that will definitely arise, again, is that has INEC dealt with the glitches that happened that were evident in the Osun State, you know, election? But beyond that, again, is also the issue of detention, the pre-election tension, which I wanted to ask him, because pre-leading to the main election, there was a lot of aggression, a lot of, you know, violence, you know, in certain areas, and post-election violence as well. Yeah. So how do we also look at that as some of the reviews to take back, look at review, perhaps have collaborative conversations with, you know, security agencies? We saw what the Ministry of Defense, you know, spoke about in terms of elections ahead of 2027, front page, even though, you know, you said he may be quoted out of context, you know. But I think these are just germane issues to really look at and excoriate just as we get into the campaign.
Yes, that's right, because it's very easy to extricate the build-up, like you're pointing out, as part of the process.
Exactly.
And it is part of the process, and the violence and tension that was in Osun State lasted for months, and at some considerable cost. All right, I think, Kenneth, you can take over from here. I think you were about to explain the processes and how we should take the processes just as serious, if not more serious, than the outcomes. Perhaps you continue where you stopped.
Exactly. Because for us, to combination, not actually the outcome. Just like I mentioned, the outcome is already, you know, is certain. It's almost certain it's going to happen. But the issue, what makes an election credible, is the process, the compliance to the process that leads to the outcome. Now, and by that I mean that, for example, for me to get 4 as a number, I can choose to add 2 and another 2, and that will give me 4. Another person can get to 4 through another processes that is not the same process I took, which is I can also decide to add 3 and 1, and it also gives me 4. Now, if I did not show you my workings, if the process had stipulated that the process for getting 4 has to be 3 and 1, but I decided to use 2 and 2 as a means of shortcut, but I still produce the same results, the same outcome 4. I want to tell you that that process, that election is not credible. And that is what we saw in Osun. So, but because the outcome appears to have danced to the tune of the major public, the general public, so people are not concerned, you know, the normal balance of the end justify the means. No, for a credible election, the means should justify the end. So when we critique the process, for example, you take into consideration the election violence, the hitting of the polity, the people that lost their life, that up till now, could you believe that no serious action has been taken by the law enforcement agency? Even those we know, that even came publicly and rained terrors and fears upon the voters. And, you know, maybe in a way as if it was acted, invited, nothing had been done. Me and you know that if it were to be an ordinary person or maybe an opposition that had said half of what those persons had said, by now it would have been a different thing that would have happened. We even saw on election day where the same people telling people that if you are not going to vote for a particular person here, then it's better you choose your life. Don't even come near. Then, so the violence, the question should be, have you ever heard that INEC had submitted, because INEC had told us that they are partnering with the police. And when I have partnership with you, it means where my power does not reach, I will hand it over to you. Of course, you know, when paramilitary agency like civil defense, when they make arrest, they hand over to the police because it is not under their jurisdiction to enforce certain things. We had expected that by now, INEC will have mentioned and released a report on those violence, those that threaten democracy. Because if anything had happened to that electoral process, INEC will take the blame. We all know that for now, INEC do not have power to prosecute. But what is now the effect? What is the importance? What is the essence of the partnership they have with the police? If INEC had not taken anybody, those threats, those people that threaten democracy, that did everything, at least to those that we know, if INEC is yet to release their report and hand them over to the police, let's now know that it is the police that is delaying, the justice. Nothing has been done on that part.
Okay.
Let me take you also to vote buying.
Okay.
The level of vote buying that took place at the public glare of security agency. How many persons were arrested? Have you heard that any EFCC took anybody, maybe to court or to custody? You see people, party agents, publicly asking voters that they've paid to refund them their money because the voter refused to show them the person they voted for. And by that, their own conclusion is that the voter had swayed them, has deceived them by collecting their money without voting them. No action has been taken, nothing. Even people will show with money, and people are coming to talk about billions of naira were spent, nothing has been done. These things add. And the last one is the aspect about the glitch again. Up till now, to my knowledge, INEC has not addressed or explained anything to Nigerians. The only thing I am aware that INEC has done is to dispute the fact that the rumor that people who were not supposed to vote were brought in from another state to come and vote in Osho. They quickly disputed that. But as we speak, INEC has not told us what happened from 8:15 to about 11:40, about 2 hours. INEC did not tell us what happened. What we are hearing is that a particular person was being called and intervened to go and delete his tweet. And INEC is silent. Do you know the same thing happened in 2023? Does that not tell you that we shouldn't celebrate the outcome? Something would have happened. Does that not tell you that if you can just at a point halt a process, no explanation, and later only God knows what transpired in the back end, and you came up again and continue results? So what are we actually celebrating? So can we say now that 2027 election is going to be credible? How can it be credible when the processes that leads to an election are being violated? And lastly, on my point.
You said lastly about 5 minutes ago, Kenneth.
Yes, lastly in this last 5 minutes.
There is another violation. As we speak, there's another violation on the part of the electoral umpire, which is already a threat to the credibility of 2027 election. And that point is the halting of the continual voters registration, CVR. We have just released something yesterday, and as I speak to you, we are approaching and submitting a request next week to the INEC on a pre-action notice. And we are saying this same thing happened in 2022 to the build-up of 2023 election, where INEC impromptu halted and ended the CVR in July 31, as against the statutory provision in the Electoral Act of 90 days. Now, INEC, as wonderful as the excuses that they have, that they need to clean the register, they need to showcase the register, people has to come, what they call other administrative, preparedness and process that need to take place. As we speak today, you are aware that INEC has ended the CVR on July 26. That is over 174 days to the election, as against 90 days in the law. For God's sake, if INEC had known that 90 days as provided in the law is not enough for them, why didn't INEC approach the National Assembly to amend the Act?
You see, Kenneth, there are plenty of, you see, you're raising a trailer load of issues, and like I said, these are probably things that we will need to take up with the Independent National Electoral Commission and security agencies. Yeah. But let's move over to other things, because talking about the violence and the tension, it didn't seem to completely die with the elections itself. There was the tension with the governor's convoy attacked while visiting the traditional ruler
at the Oshobo Palace. Yes.
Exactly. Post violence.
Yeah.
And of course, you will be able to predict or extrapolate what could be the cause. Now, if violence, there was no prosecution, there was no serious arrest, there is no any reprimanding for those who perpetuated violence prior to. Maybe we seem to forget that the records about up to 30 persons are already dead. And that is why even the state governor, the person that won now, the governor that won is saying he's bringing out some money as a relief fund for those that, was affected by the electoral violence. Now, even during the election, because when you don't stop something, it keeps progressing. Prior to the election, there were signs, there were threats, civil society were shouting, telling all those people, everybody kept quiet because, of course, they could not do anything. During the election, we saw it. Now, even the post-election, is it not shameful that a governor that was re-elected, were attacked in his own state? So where else is a governor supposed to be safe, if not in his state? The chief security officer. No, I don't know whether there have been any public condemnation by the security agency about that act. I don't also know whether there is any arrest that has also been made with regard to what happened.
Yes, we heard there was some arrest, and the searchlights being beamed on members of the Eye confraternity,
yes.
From what we gather from the Osun State Police Command.
Because that means the life of the governor and maybe some of his supporters are not safe. And all these things is because we did not nip it to the board at that pre-election stage. Now, when you pamper an act, you are giving room for more people to find themselves doing that same thing. When I see that there is not going to be any serious action taken against me, then you see people advancing. So all these things is why we are saying that the processes that led to the election in Osun, being that Osun election is the last one of cycle election as we proceed to 27, and we are saying the processes was flawed, it did not meet the expectation as it should be.
All right,
when we talk about other things that happened, then you know that we need to really, really comply and stick to the processes. We need to know this is the processes that is leading to 27 election. If these processes are violated, then whatever outcome that is coming up will not be accepted.
So what about
to that point? If not,
Kenneth,
go ahead.
Kenneth, sorry, I was going to ask you another question, but I think we've run out of time, because I was just going to say to you, what about, going from the peace accord to the statements by Senator Fadahunsi to, punitive measures? These are all bouquets of issues that needs to be reviewed, not just by INEC, but by security agencies.
So Kenneth, you know what's going to happen? We'll probably fix another date sometime next week for you to continue where you stopped, because we do have to go now.
The peace accord is more. Okay, the peace accord is more like a ritual. You have heard most of the participants.
All right, we need to go.
In this same Osun, it happened.
Kenneth, we must go now. That's Kenneth Eze, Executive Lead, Speak Out Africa Initiative, bearing his mind on the pre and post-election events in Osun State.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
For your insight. All right, it's a Friday, and what is a Friday without entertainment and lifestyle? And
no Friday at all.
That's where we go to now.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment and Lifestyle on Kakaaki, the African Voice. I am Chidera Izudoye. The annual Iriji Mbisi Cultural Festival is celebrated every August 15th by the Mbisi people of Imo State across the country and in diaspora, brought together the sons and daughters of Mbisi, traditional rulers, cultural enthusiasts, and fun seekers who had come to have a feel of the festival, which marks the official harvesting and tasting of new yams, a grand community thanksgiving for a successful farming season.
President resume be sir. La the Vice President resume be sir. La the second Vice President.
Beyond the celebration, the festival remains a cherished tradition that brings together the three local government areas that make up Mbisi: Abombisi, Ahiazumbisi, and Izinihiti Mbisi. And for the 2026 New Yam Festival held in Abombisi local government area, the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy, Hanatu Musawa, who was represented at the event, lauded the Iriji Mbisi cultural heritage, urging the people to make unity, peace, and stability a priority, noting that the platform is capable of creating opportunities for economic growth.
We must therefore see cultural festival not only as a celebration, but also as a platform for tourism, enterprise, investment, and job opportunity that culminated to enhancement of socio-economic, cultural, and political development of our country.
Traditional rulers at the festival highlighted the importance of the annual celebration as an avenue to preserve the people's culture and heritage, while strengthening bonds among members of the community.
Of this event is it shows that God has blessed the people of Mbisi. Yam is not only a food in Mbisi, it is a sign of peace, it's a sign of success, it's a sign of progress, it's a sign of unity, it's a sign of blessing in a family.
Culture we are celebrating today, it's been there more than 2,000 years before the white man came in the 20th century. And in those days, it was too fair. The family head, the Jofo, would do opening prayer for the entire family. And by afternoon like this, the entire family member, the friends and the associates, will troop to the village square or market square to celebrate.
Mbise people, you can see the 5 clans that make up Mbise are here. And it's only this fun, this activity that brings them together to celebrate and thank God for their existence.
Iriji is a symbol of strength and unity for Mbise people. Apart from the fact that it showcases the productivity of Mbise nation, it also serves as a point of unity. Once in a year, the whole Mbise rallies round in unity, in peace, in love to celebrate. It is one culture we can now uphold and say, yes, this is one thing we are celebrating up to now as a people.
Respect this culture, I was born into it. In the year 2001, as a president, I brought the sitting vice president of our republic. And that day, that was the day we put in Iriji in the annual contract calendar of our republic. Honorable Minister, when you go back, you check the records. And since then, we have always invited subsequent ministers because we believe with a proud heritage.
The celebration was not just about the tasting of the new yam, but about the preservation of cultural identity passed down from one generation to another. The theme for this year's festival is celebrating our harvest, preserving our culture, building our future. American singer Christina Aguilera's September 25th concert at Etihad Arena has been called off, with no new dates announced, and ticket holders are expected to receive full refunds. Meanwhile, the Off Limits Music Festival, which was scheduled for November and headlined by global superstar Shakira, has also been cancelled. Organizers say they hope to bring back the festival in 2027. The cancellation comes amid heightened security concerns and ongoing tensions in the Middle East, which have continued to disrupt major entertainment events in the region. So fans hoping to see Shakira and Christina perform in Abu Dhabi will have to wait till the events are rescheduled. Nigerian Afrobeats diva Ira Star is proving once again that her influence goes beyond music, as fans embrace a fashion trend inspired by her latest album. The Nigerian Afropop star has caught attention of fans with a distinct new fashion aesthetic surrounding her latest album, with her bold styling quickly becoming part of the conversation online. From statement outfits to her signature feminine and edgy looks, Ira Star is turning her album era into a full-blown fashion moment. Fans have been recreating and embracing the style, showing that for the singer, music and fashion are becoming increasingly connected. And with Ira Star's growing influence across Africa and beyond, her latest fashion era could be the beginning of a new trend. Now it seems Ira Star isn't just setting the mood with her music. She's styling, she's setting the style agenda as well. African music icon Angelique Kidjo has made history as the first African musician to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The 5-time Grammy winner was honored in Los Angeles, receiving the 2,854th star on the iconic Hollywood Boulevard. The Beninese singer was recognized for her remarkable contribution to music and her decades-long career of taking African sounds to audiences around the world. Kidjo, who has spent over 4 years in music, has become one of the global artists. The historic honor further highlights the growing influence of African music. Angelique Kidjo has once again belongs on the world's biggest stage. The lifestyle for the week. I am Chidera Izudoye. Do not forget to stay GD. Have a fabulous weekend.
Wow, great to see honor being done to Angelique Kidjo. Yeah, she's been around for decades, just like Chidera said. I mean, back in the days, all you guys remember Wombo Lombo. Yeah, that's
I'm sure you danced to that.
I did, trust me, trust me.
I believe you.
All right, that's what we're going to wrap it up on Kakaaki, the African Voice, for this Friday. And just in case you're wondering where Kunle has been, he's taking care of business far away. If you can see the way I said far,
very far.
You know what that means. But he's within our radar.
Fingers crossed.
He's within our radar, and you'll have him back next week. That's it on Kakaaki, the African Voice, for this Friday and indeed for the week. Many thanks for starting and ending your week with us, and trusting you'll join us to start another week on Monday. I'm Oloyede Oworu.
Well, again, I'll say thank you for staying with us. Thank God it's Friday. Join me again at 5:30. Gender Agenda will be up next at that time. I am Adora Sydney Jack. Goodbye for now.
Ultimate searchlight on political actors holding power accountable every single weekend. 10 p.m. Nigerian time on Saturdays and Sundays. Bold, analytical, uncompromising. Democracy Today Extra every single weekend. 10 p.m. Nigerian time on Saturdays and Sundays.
An impact in humanitarian industry.
I am so delighted. I'm very happy to be a winner of Ease and Cruising.
Download the app and you may be the next week lucky winner.
We have been able to give you a different perspective to entertainment program. We don't only entertain you with good musicals. We celebrate Nigerians. Watch it, participate, and feel the cruising moment.
In all honesty, why do you want to go to Africa?
2 years isn't that long. I'll make the most of it.
You were nice and honest in college, and now what's happened? And you don't even recognize me anymore.
There's a couple who decided to explore Africa together. There's the guy who just volunteered to be the captain. There's also this guy who later became a very good friend of mine. And there's also someone like me.
Sifu, you intend to join the medical team for Africa?
And wanted to have something answered. Anyway, when I got there, I made such a fool of myself.
He worked so hard to save him, he still couldn't make it.
This is Africa.
In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy. Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something billion MSMEs as a people and as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. weekdays live on AIT. If it matters to the economy, join us.
Engaging program designed to inform, inspire, and challenge perspectives. The Teacher celebrates and unbundles the challenges teachers face through documentary and engaging discussions with stakeholders in the educational sector of our society. The Teacher Show. Here, meaningful conversations spark learning beyond the classroom.
If the president asks you, yes, Mr. Mike Yaneshe, yes, I can only do one thing for teachers, what will you tell him to do?
The way the society looks at teachers, like the low class, they are not highly placed. And that makes a lot of people shy away from the profession of teaching?
We have professional teachers that are competent, but when you are not taking good care of them, what do you expect them to do? Many of them getting better opportunity, they leave the job and they move.
This is the teacher.
AIT, sharing the African experience.
Hello and welcome to the Eagle.
Here at the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, training is not taken lightly.
A program that comes away from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
Hello, dear viewer. Your incisive educational anti-corruption program, The Eagle, which comes up on Thursdays, 9 a.m., is now airing by 11 a.m. same Thursday every week. Stay tuned for an exciting time with the EFCC.
Keeping lives and property safe. It's a major global challenge. Nigeria, no exception. The authorities say they are doing their best. Others say they are not.
If you don't have competent people to run the systems, garbage in, garbage out.
A need to understand the issues.
Bail is free. If any policeman is demanding for bail money from you, you need to demand for receipt. Let him give you receipt.
This is where we come in. Security Scope on AIT, a weekly spotlight on the issues that matter, how they matter, and why they matter. Security is everybody's business, including yours. Have your say with your eyewitness report, comments, and observations.
Tripartite. It's new, it's fresh, it's informative, it's educational, and it is authentic. The tripartite holds onto the workers, the employers, the government, and the international development partners on a round table to critically dissect issues concerning employment, productivity, welfare, safety, and health. A people united can never be defeated. Join us on the tripartite, the worker, employer, and government roundtable.
Your Health is brought to you by Doctors Save a Life Foundation.
Far beyond witches and wizards is the root cause of health problem of many in Africa. Seek professional advice concerning that your health matter. You don't need things to enjoy life. You need life to enjoy things. Give your health professional attention. If you lose money, you lose something. But if you lose your health, you lose everything.
Save a Life Foundation is an NGO with a unique vision of giving total health for all through the power of knowledge. Your health is your strength. Your health is your prosperity. Your health is your life. Give it professional attention. You and your health with Dr. Richard Okoye.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on RAPA Radio and Africa Independent Television, AIT. My name is
Amechi Anapwe. The 2027 presidential campaign has opened another major front in the debate over Nigeria's economic direction, with former Vice President and African Democratic Congress presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar